Good day, future chefs, parents. Welcome back to our third week of learning and cooking. We're going to use our first week and our second week of cooking and learning to provide us for the recipe for our third week. And that's going to be the great all-American chili that we all know that is so delicious and can be spicy, can be cheesy, can be whatever you want it to be. But ours today is about a 6.5 to 7 on the spice scale out of 10. And if you want it to be a little less spicy, I wrote in the directions and I speak of it throughout the video just to take some of the spice out, like 1 jalapeno and some of the other spices I add to the recipe. If not, spice it up. Enjoy. Alright, here are the ingredients we'll be using today. 2.5 pounds of ground beef. Then I have some jalapenos. This is a head of garlic broken up. It's about 12 cloves. 3 bay leaves, of course, right here. Then we have our chili flakes already measured out, our oregano. Some oregano doesn't come as crushed, so you could go ahead and measure out more than I called in the recipe, maybe 2 times or 3 times the amount, you know, because my leaves weren't as crushed, so I did double. Then we have our cumin over here, black pepper, chili, cayenne pepper. Again, if you don't like too much spice and you can't handle it, take out the cayenne pepper, half the chili flakes, and 1 jalapeno. Or you could add both jalapenos, take out all the seeds. Be safer than sorry. Tomato paste by the little can because I don't use tomato paste too much in my cooking, so you can freeze it after you're done with using half the can, and then use the rest later on whenever that happens. 2 cans of beans. I like to use kidney and black beans, just adds a little difference, a little depth of flavor, and different textures in our chili. 2 peeled plum tomato cans, okay? Doesn't matter what you have, but peeled is always best. I bought the Mexican blend of cheese, cooking oil, of course our onions already diced up, ready to go. You all are professionals at that now. A scallion for our garnish, if you all like to put garnish. If not, just save some onions on the side and use that as garnish. That's fine. And some carrots. I like to add carrots in my chili. It's a little different. It's a little bit of a northern thing for me, but it's a little sweetness, a little more depth, and some color for fall, right? So add some little fun there. And red wine vinegar. Some recipes call for regular wine. You always want to have some acid off balance with your recipes. It just balances everything out. And I like to use a vinegar instead of wine because for this recipe it has a lot of heat, so that's going to kind of kill the heat and balance it out and just make it more well-rounded. Alright, I only pulled out a few different equipment items that we haven't used before or we barely used. Our handy dandy peeler, I'll show the carrot one more time. Our can opener, we'll be using that for the first time. Sauce spatula as usual. Our slotted spoon or slotted spatula, whatever you have. It's great to pull out the meat so the fat drops out and you won't burn yourself and or the fat won't drop and spit onto your shirt or apron. My favorite, the wooden spoon. Then we have this small saute pan that will be about 6 inches in diameter here, and we will be tossing our spices in here and toasting them real quick, about 30 to 45 seconds depending on how your heat is and how good your smelling is. We'll smell the aroma of those spices and we'll be done with it. And that just builds the flavor of the spices, brings more oils out of them. Our 2 bowls, one will be crushing tomatoes in and the other will be putting the meat in, and also draining our beans and whatnot. We only need 2 bowls. We'll utilize that very well. Not making a big kitchen mess today. And then our big pot, I like to Le Creuset because it's heavy. It will have even cooking all the way around, so our browning will happen fairly quickly for our meat, so the cooking process won't take forever. If you use a thin pan, it might burn it, and it's just not the best for building our flavor and our zucks on the bottom of the pan here, or our browning on the bottom of the pan here, that we will deglaze with our vinegar, and then we will build more flavor. You can hear Chester, he's excited in the background. So Le Creuset is best. Anything heavy on the bottom, Staub makes one, or your Dutch oven. Let's open up our canned vegetables, shall we? So I like to rinse the tops off of our cans just in case they dropped in the supermarket or anything or traveled elsewhere. As you can see, I opened the other 3 cans to make this part of the video go a little quicker. So we're going to take our can opener, okay, and you're going to take this little wheel side as you can see, onto the lip, as we call it. As you can see, that's raised right there of the can. And we're just going to squeeze with our wrist. And there should be a hole now. I made a light one. And you just crank it until it opens all the way around the can. I like to do it just until right before it finishes, so I keep the cap on. As you can see, I did a good job here, because then I can press the cap down and we could drain the liquid out of the tomatoes. Okay, so I'm just pushing, I'm holding with one hand here. And if you have smaller hands, you can just hold it and you can push here with your pointer finger and just drain that delicious tomato juice that we're going to add on later to our recipe. And you're going to hold it for about, I don't know, this takes about 10-15 seconds. Now we're cheating with our beans. I love to make chili start to finish with dried beans that I soak overnight in some stock and, you know, add that depth of flavor. But if you want to make chili in one day and build all this delicious flavor, then use canned beans. And they're perfectly cooked, so no complaints, and nobody will know the difference. So again, I got my second can here of tomatoes. And now I'm going to take my tomato juice, put that aside. I'm done with my can opener. Make sure you wash it. My beans I'm not ready for yet because I'm utilizing 2 bowls today. I'll be taking my canned tomatoes and just pitching them, okay? Just popping them right out of the can there. And taking my can here and twisting this lid off safely. We're going to save the can. We're going to utilize that. This lid put somewhere safe, not in the trash yet, because you can put it in the can later and then in the trash. So just put that somewhere safe where no one will grab it. Again, pitch right out, twist, save that can somewhere safe. Tomatoes now, crushing our tomatoes. Use one hand, okay? Both hands, you're gonna have to turn the sink on to wash your hand. So use one hand. I like to just take my hand and grab as many as I can and squeeze lightly, because you're gonna get tomato juice everywhere. Squeeze lightly, and you keep on doing it over and over again. Now, to prevent all the popping of the juice, if you're nervous, you could always just stab the tomatoes with a chef knife real quick, and that will release the pressure of the juice, because they've been sitting in the can for, you know, a few months. So they build pressure and they're ready to pop. So here I am just crushing my tomatoes. You can crush them as much as you like, as little as you like. Make it rustic looking. Rustic means that we're going to make it look old school, like our grandma made it in a cottage somewhere, or grandpa. But I like to crush it just so the juice sits even with the flesh of the tomatoes. As you can see, it almost looks like a can of crushed tomatoes, but better because you crushed them yourself. Okay, now I have my delicious crushed tomatoes. Take a can, take your bowl of tomato juice, raise it to it's about 4 inches above the can, and swiftly pour that juice right back into the can. Gonna use that on later, or later on. Now we have our beans we're going to use. Drain that beans right into the tomato can. Now if you want to use your bartending skills, do 2 at once. Save time. Try to not make a mess. Like I made a little mess there. Sometimes you don't save time making a mess. Now my beans are nice and drained. I have my bean juice I will save on the side. And now I'll pitch my beans right into this bowl. And push that cap down. Doesn't matter, we're not using this again. And now we want to mix our beans up. Just so that they're together. And we have our ingredients set. All right, let's do our vegetables for this week. And we're gonna recap 2, and then we're gonna do our new one. I don't need to go over the onion anymore. So our carrot, again, use your peeler, and we're going to hold it like our phone and just slowly peel it while rotating our edible fidget spinner. And there we go. Clear your board of the mess. For this week, I want you to cut the carrots a little bigger because we will be stewing our chili, meaning cooking it slowly over time. So the carrots are going to get soft on their own pretty easily. So just cut the large top end in half, and then we're going to be cutting them about 1/3 of an inch. And 1/3 of an inch, if you can't tell, you look at the tip of your finger from here, from that knuckle to here is about 1 inch. So 1/3 will be here. Don't put the knife on your finger, please. Poor showing there. Carrot aside. Bottom, cut it into rounds of the same thickness. That's fine. When you get to the top here, if you get, you want to make it that way, cut it that way, and down, and down. Have fun with the shapes, but they will cook at the same rate. Garlic. Nice piece of garlic here. I will use my knife this time, if some of you are ready. Okay, remember, if we're clearing our knife, we're pushing our finger away and out. We're going to take the bottom part of our knife here, the thicker part, over the garlic, our palm of our hand, and we're going to be, Freudian slip, I'm thinking about ham, we're going to be dropping our palm right here down onto the knife. 1, 2. Should be pretty well smashed there. I might have to twist it. Yep, I got it. Might take 3 or 4. But for the purposes of the tripod here, let's not drop it. And then the garlic, you're going to chop the root end off. Goodbye. And I will cut it into rows because that'll make it a little easier to chop. And then, just like the onion, cross chop it. Clear your knife, and again, chop again. And as much as you want, as fine as you want, as long as you want. That's good for me. Nice and coarse. I call that coarse cut. Not too fine. Not too fine. Jalapenos. If your hands aren't used to cutting spicy things or touching spicy things, please put gloves on. I know at this day and age a lot of people have gloves at home, so please use them. Because the oils from the jalapeno seeds, that's where the spice comes from, is going to really spice up your hands. So I took the tops off, as you saw, okay? You could shave them. It's just the same as the onion, okay? Now the bottom end, sometimes there's browning there. I don't have any. They're clean, nice clean jalapenos that I washed, so there's no flour on the bottom anymore, okay? So I don't need to cut that. So what I like to do with jalapenos is cut the top off, and then I'm just going to cut it right in half. flat side down so I avoid touching the seeds at all costs. I will flip the contour of it around so they kind of, you know, fold into each other. And I'll cut it into rows. Doesn't matter how thick, because we're going to cut it cross. We're going to do it like garlic. A jalapeno of this size, about 3.5 inches long. You could get 3 or 4 rows out of it, and then you'll turn your jalapeno on its side. And again, we're going to cut right through it. You can make these cuts a little tighter. Clear your knife. Clear your knife. Bring back your jalapenos. And again, give them another chop. Putting your hand on top of the knife, just rocking back and forth. This is another rough chop, we'll call this. And that's pretty good. I like that. Put that aside, You're gonna have oil all over your board, so make sure you wash your board after this, and don't cut anything else after you cut a jalapeno on your board. That's why I left it to last to cut. Okay? The last thing you want to cut is your jalapeno, because you're going to be spreading that heat all over the place, and you do not want to do that yet. Again, cutting it into rows, putting the contour of them together, just so it's easier. If I did it this way, it's fine, but you see, it's just, it doesn't feel right. I like to switch it around there. It's tighter, it'll be easier to cut, everything will have a more even cut. I guess that's why we're chefs. Okay, and then again, hand on top here. Get ready to use that cut a lot in your life. Makes things so much easier, safer, and everything doesn't need to be a perfect cut. Who cares? Use the whole vegetable. Took a lot to grow it. Okay, and now we have all our vegetables ready to be cooked. All right, have your wooden spoon available, whichever one you like the best, and we're going to be toasting our ingredients that are the chili powder. Throw it in, medium heat, medium-high heat, and then the cumin. Stir that around until they get nice and together. Any clumps, just get them out, break them down. As you can see, I can pat them out. Pat out those clumps. Get your hand on the pan, and as you're, twisting here, start shaking, okay? Shaking the pan back and forth, just a back and forth motion, rubbing, making a lot of noise at home, stirring. And once you start to smell the aroma really take over, that's when you're gonna pull it off the heat, and you'll be done with it. And I smell it. It's delicious, and I'm done. Time to brown our meat. Now I have a pan, the pot on nice and hot, medium-high heat. It's heated up for 4 or 5 minutes now, so it's really hot. I'm gonna drop the oil in. Okay, make sure it doesn't smoke. I'm gonna twist the oil around here, and now I'm ready for my browning. I'm going to just take chunks of the meat. As you can see, I put the tomatoes here because I'm going to be taking my meat out once it browns and put it right into the tomatoes. It'll cool down. We're going to add it at once later on anyways. So I'm going to take pieces of my meat here, just as we did in the patty melt, but not as big. Okay. Just a golf ball size. Squeeze it and drop it down into the pan. You're going to do this maybe 4 or 5 times with all the meat you're doing because you want to get it nice and brown. And that builds flavor. And then we'll be pulling it out with our slotted spoon and putting it in the tomatoes, and we'll be doing this for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Once you put your meat in, you are going to take your fingers and some salt and just season lightly, and then we'll see some browning in a couple minutes. Once you have nice browning and the fat is rendered or cooked out of the meat, then you're going to take all your meat Give it a quick stir with your slotted spoon. Take a full spoonful of meat and just give it a couple shakes like that. 1, 2, 3, getting the fat drip through the bottom, so we're not having too much fat on the top of our chili yet. Okay, I'm clearing here. Now you can see the bottom of the pan has some browning on it, so we're going to lift that once we clear our fat into a smaller stainless steel bowl, or the bean can, whatever you want to use. You could reuse things. Getting all that meat out of there. Turning my heat on medium, not high anymore. Okay, now I see that fat in there. I'm just going to take my stainless steel bowl and I'm going to put it in front of me and pour away for myself. Okay, I'm gonna use a towel here just in case I have some fat. You never know. Maybe I'll see. Do this, like this here, and I'll just pour really quickly, saving that fat on the side. Parents, jump in on that one. Okay, now I have my pot on medium heat, my red wine vinegar. We're going to deglaze this pot. That's the sound it should make. Take your flat spatula or wooden spoon and just work the bottom of the pan, getting all that deliciousness off the bottom, and let that cook out a minute until there's barely any vinegar left. All right, barely any vinegar left, so now time to throw our onions and carrots in. Give them a good stir. Get all that browning and whatever you worked off the bottom of the pan. Introduce that to the vegetables. And add some salt to season. Get the juices flowing. I'll do 2 pinches. And we're going to let that sweat for about 10-15 minutes, probably 15 to 20. If you put the lid on, it'll go a little faster. See, the vegetables are nicely sweated. It looks like I have some liquid on the bottom here, so I don't need to add any of the fat back. That's only if the vegetables are a little dry. So when you add your garlic and jalapeno, that it will cook. So again, I made a hole in the center of my vegetables. I threw the garlic and jalapeno mixture in there. Let that cook out a minute, and then we're going to add all our spices, bay leaves, and a heavy pinch of salt. So let that cook a minute. Garlic and jalapeno have been worked well. Now let's add all our spices and our pinch of salt and bay leaves. Bay leaves on the side. Red pepper flakes. Oregano. The spice should start to fill the air. Some of you might be coughing a little bit. Soft spatula to help out our toasted friends. And it's nice to spread everything as you're going so it's not all clumpy in the middle. So as you see, I made a nice donut there. Big old donut. And now I stir. This is where a lot of our color is going to build with our chili. Besides the big F word, flavor. Pinch of salt. Let that cook out a minute. After a quick minute or two, now you want to take your tomato paste with your soft spatula, and you want to just go around the edges of the tomato paste can and pull out a nice heaping spoonful, about 1/3 of the can or half the can of tomato paste, and just throw it on down there. and use your other flat-sided spoon, spatula, what you would like to call it, whatever, and we're going to just work that tomato paste into our pot. Everything is deepened in cooking and flavor. Now I'm going to add my tomatoes and beef mixture. I'm going to go off the written recipe a little bit here, since we did things a little differently as it happens. Okay, give that a good stir. Get everything together, and then you're going to add your beans, which I think we're just going to make it in this pot here. Okay. And then you're going to add your liquid. First, do the tomato juice. See where we get. Let's do that right now. I'm going to keep stirring this even more. But let's do half the can back. Stir. Looking like we're going to have to use the whole can because we want it to reduce and build flavor and stew over an hour. And then we might add all the bean juice too. If you have chicken stock left over from your chicken noodle soup, you could add some chicken stock. That would be great flavor. Don't worry, it's not going to taste like chicken at all. It's going to add a delicious depth of flavor. And that looks delicious, but we have to let it cook. So let's add some bean juice. And bean juice is going to keep it nice and thick anyways, because beans have a lot of fiber in it, which is really healthy and good for us. So it looks like we have no waste of ingredients and a chili that's ready to cook down for about an hour. I'm going to put it on medium-low heat. You're going to let it simmer, a low simmer, little bubbles on the side, little bubbles. All right? That's the low simmer I'm talking about. Our chili has been stewing for over an hour. I let it go for a while, and you can see that it became nice and rich and a little thick, and it has some juice left to it, which is great for reheating. So now I'm going to bowl it up, which I'm still using my slotted spoon, so I'll have some juice left in the pot for later on heating purposes. Right now I'm still going to capture a lot of the liquid. And that's a good amount for me. Maybe one more. Then we'll take our cheese out of the bag. A nice pinch. A heavy pinch. Because we all love cheese. Maybe one more. And you can put a lid or another pan on top so your cheese gets melted. And then you could finish with scallions or sour cream. So this is it. Our chili. I added some scallions and some sour cream in the middle there. Some melted cheese. It's delicious. Some chips on the side for dipping. And enjoy your food. Well, that about wraps up our lesson for today. And I had a great time cooking with you. I hope you had a great time cooking with yourselves. And this was a pretty involved recipe, so congratulations to you getting it done and enjoying it for the rest of the week. Hopefully you can watch some sports or whatever movies you like as it gets cooler. Chili is going to warm you up and make your stomach so happy it'll give you a hug back. Till next time, me and Chester are hanging out. See you later. Enjoy.